Ukraine can win war against Russia. Erdogan holds phone call with Putin, and how Russian drones target Ukrainian cities Nizhyn and Pryluki, damage to railway line, energy facility and oil depot. The latest news next. Hopes for a quick peace following talks between the United States and Russia have not materialized, but Ukraine's strategy in the war of attrition is showing unexpected results. The constant losses of Russian forces and the adaptability of the Ukrainian armed forces are creating opportunities for a long-term victory, according to a publication by The Atlantic. Strategic situation on front. Russia had counted on a rapid advance in northeastern Ukraine, but key cities and logistical hubs remain under Kyiv's control. According to Robert Forsyth-Worth, a journalist for The Atlantic who visited Ukrainian positions, despite Russia's numerical advantage, its attempts to seize fortified areas have yielded little tangible progress. Technology and new approaches of armed forces of Ukraine. Ukrainian officers said that the key to halting the Russian advance lies in the effective use of limited resources. The battlefield now relies on drones, precise artillery strikes, and optimized troop maneuvers. Careful planning and regular troop rotations help the Ukrainian military avoid direct confrontation and minimize casualties. Shift in confidence and long-term outlook. 9 months ago, the situation looked dire. Ukraine lacked in weapon supplies, while Russia's human wave assaults by soldiers and mercenaries pressed forward. Now, however, he observes a new sense of confidence. Ukraine is adapting its institutions for a prolonged war, learning through experience and continuing to inflict steady losses on Russian forces while reducing its own risks. This transformation, the journalist writes, suggests that time, once thought to favor Moscow, may gradually be shifting toward Kiev. Earlier, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that the war in Ukraine is unlikely to end soon, calling the prolonged conflict not very good news. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Ministry of Finance presented an analysis of the war's impact on state enterprises and the national budget, outlining 3 possible economic development scenarios for the coming period. On the night of October 8, Russian forces carried out a massive kamikaze drone attack on the Chernihiv region. The main strikes targeted the Ukrainian cities of Nizhyn, Pryluki and the Semenivka community, according to reports from the Nizhyn City Council and the Chernihiv Regional Military Administration. According to the Nizhyn City Council, the enemy directed 12 Shaheds at freight train on the Nosivka-Nizhyn section. As a result of the attack, the railway track was damaged and train traffic to Kiev was temporarily halted. Trains are now running only to Nosivka station. There was also a strike on one of Nizhyn's energy facilities, which caused emergency power outages in several districts of the city. The warehouse infrastructure of Ukrzaliznytsia, Ukrainian state railway company, was damaged. A large fire broke out on the roof of the building. According to preliminary data, there were no casualties. The Chernihiv Regional Military Administration reported that the region came under 50 attacks during the day, most of them carried out with FPV drones. 23 settlements in 7 communities were affected. In Novhorod-Siversky, a 44-year-old woman was injured, and in the Semenivka community, a residential building was destroyed and the car was burned in a drone attack, injuring a 70-year-old resident. Another injured person was 56-year-old driver of a road maintenance enterprise whose special vehicle was hit by a drone. In Pryluki, a Shahed struck an oil depot, causing a fire, and in Semenivka, it hit an administrative building. In Nizhyn, the strikes hit railway facilities, causing fires, and in the morning, another strike hit an energy facility. Attacks on Chernihiv and the region. Over the past week, Russia has been carrying out massive attacks on the energy infrastructure of Chernihiv and the region. The situation became complicated after the attacks that took place at the beginning of October. The primary targets of the enemy are Nizhyn, Bobrovitsa and Pryluki. Due to the attacks in these cities, there have been significant disruptions to their electricity and water supply. According to Chernihiv Oblenergo, the Chernihiv Regional Power Distribution Company, Russian forces launched another attack on the energy infrastructure of the Chernihiv region last night. More than 4,500 consumers were left without power. Train traffic between Nizhyn and Kiev has also been disrupted due to the attacks, with long-distance and suburban routes altered. US President Donald Trump has said that resolving the war launched by Russia against Ukraine has turned out to be more difficult than achieving peace in the Middle East. Trump at a meeting with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, as reported by European Press. Trump said he had made 7 great deals and also proposed a peace plan for Gaza. Speaking about Russia's war against Ukraine, he repeated his earlier comments about many casualties and called the situation crazy.
I thought that would have been one of the easy ones. I get along very well with Putin, and I thought that would have been... I'm very disappointed in him because I thought this would have been an easy one to settle, but it turned out to be maybe tougher than the Middle East.
The full-scale war in Ukraine has lasted over 3 brutal years, and the stakes couldn't be higher. President Trump says he thought this conflict would be easy to resolve, but the harsh reality is that only decisive action can stop Russia's aggression. Ukraine desperately needs more weapons, advanced, powerful and long-range systems that can help Ukrainian defenders push back the invaders and protect their homeland. Without this critical military support, Ukraine cannot win this war or defend its people. At the same time, the world must impose tougher sanctions on Russia, sanctions that truly cripple the Kremlin's economy and war machine. Weak or partial sanctions only prolong the war and allow Russia to keep funding its aggression. The path to peace runs through arming Ukraine fully and isolating Russia economically. Anything less risks endless bloodshed and the world where aggression goes unchecked. The international community must act now. Ukraine needs weapons and Russia must feel the full weight of sanctions. Only then can this brutal war finally come to an end. Ankara continues to position itself as a mediator in efforts to achieve lasting peace between Ukraine and Russia. The latest conversation between the leaders of Turkey and Russia marked another step in diplomatic efforts aimed at easing tensions and seeking compromise solutions, according to a publication from the Directorate of Communications of the Turkish Presidency. On Tuesday, October 7th, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan held a phone conversation with Vladimir Putin. During that discussion, Erdogan emphasized the need to accelerate diplomatic initiatives that could bring an end to the war between Ukraine and Russia under conditions of a just and lasting peace.
President Erdogan stated that diplomatic initiatives must gain momentum to ensure the conclusion of the Russia-Ukraine war through a just and lasting peace, and that Turkey will continue working toward that goal.
Regional and international issues. Beyond the war in Ukraine, the two leaders also discussed other pressing global topics. Erdogan informed Putin that Ankara is taking steps to establish a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and to facilitate the delivery of humanitarian aid. The agenda also included bilateral relations between Turkey and Russia, particularly trade and energy cooperation. The Turkish president personally congratulated Vladimir Putin on his birthday, underscoring the personal and diplomatic tone of their communication. Analysts note that Ankara continues to play the role of mediator between the West and Moscow, seeking to strengthen its international standing through balanced engagement with both sides of the conflict. Context: US President Donald Trump has reportedly pushed for Turkey to halt purchases of Russian oil, offering in exchange the possibility of reinstating Ankara into the F-35 fighter jet program, from which it had been previously suspended. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan maintains working relations with both Kiev and Moscow, and analysts believe his position could prove pivotal in advancing peace initiatives, especially if Ankara decides to reduce or end its dependence on Russian energy supplies. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine, like and subscribe.